Coming up on today's episode of DLLS Mavs, we dial up the Stein line right out of the gate. And should the Mavericks take this regular season a bit more seriously? All that and more on today's episode of DLLS Mavs. Here we go. Hey, what's up, DLLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks analyst Bobby Carella and our national and Mavericks NBA insider, Marc Stein. We are DLLS Mavs, your favorite guys covering your favorite team every single day. You can find me on X at Kevin Gray Sports, at Bobby Carella, and you can always dial up the Stein line at the Stein line. So much to get to on today's episode. We're going to jump right into the Stein line right off the gate when it comes to contract extensions abound across the NBA. And plus, a little bit later on in the show, should the Mavericks take the NBA regular season a little bit more seriously, as we are just days away from the Mavericks opening up the 2024 regular season against the San Antonio Spurs? So much to get into today, Bobby. Good to see you. I'm back to save us from everything that was happening on Friday with Marc Stein and Cato. By the way, great show on Friday. I was watching on the way to Louisiana, and you guys did a fantastic job. But I'm back. I'm back here to steer the ship the way that you want it to be steered today. How about that?
It's good to be back. It's good to be back, and it's good to hear some. Well, we already got someone in the chat, Mark, saying, give me some good Grimes news. So hopefully we've got some good news on the way too, Kevin.
Stein, what you got as we dial up the Stein line?
Well, first of all, I got to say it is great to see Kevin Gray Jr. back in the captain's seat. It was bumpy. Not only did we have Cato at the controls, which was scary enough, but I've had to hear Damaris taking credit all weekend for the robust number of YouTube views that the show had. So that's double my pain. You're right. I really appreciate you guys helping me out today. I had to lock myself in the power rankings dungeon right now. I wish you guys could actually, this is quite amusing. I've never done this before. I borrowed my wife's phone to connect with you guys, so I can keep both my other phones free in case there is news, because this is one of those days, the deadline for first round picks from the 2021 draft, the deadline is 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. The phone could ring at any minute. I was fortunate enough to get the call a couple hours ago about Trey Murphy and his deal getting done in New Orleans, and that's why I said I'm just so paranoid that I wanted to be able to look at both my phones while we're doing this hit. And I've been reporting since Saturday, I believe, that yes, the Mavericks have been in discussions with Quentin Grimes about an extension. Of course, Quentin Grimes was a first-round pick in that 2021 draft, so he is among the 19 players that began the day eligible for an extension by 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. our time. That number now down to 18 because Trey Murphy did his deal. What I can tell you is there have been discussions all weekend. There have been talks about a framework for a potential 3-year deal. But I was told basically entering today, there was still a gap between the sides, and it is not yet clear if that gap can be bridged here in the next 4 hours, before little less than 4 hours now, before the buzzer hits. On one hand, if you're Quentin Grimes, you've been moved a couple times, jumping on a 3-year deal for security reasons. I'm sure that does have some appeal. But also, if you're Quentin Grimes, you know the Mavericks have you earmarked for a pretty significant role. You're now joining a team where you get to play off Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. There could be an element where Grimes takes the stance of, maybe I should play this thing out. A great year in Dallas could really help my value come summertime. excuse me there. The challenge, of course, is salary cap space is so precious. At this point, only Brooklyn next summer is projected to have more than $30 million in cap space. There just isn't there doesn't project to be a great amount of cap space in the market next summer. So restricted free agency is never a fun game for the restricted free agents. And you have to weigh that in too. So we'll see. I mean, look, the Mavs have been very pleased with what they've seen from Grimes in the short time since he's been a Mav. And, they have him. They know he's going to have a significant role on this team. I mean, he is someone they look at as a two-way player, and they don't have a zillion of those. So I think on both sides, there is a thought. On one hand, yes, it would be great to get a deal done, but it would not surprise me if a deal does not materialize in the next 3+ hours and the side say, you know what, let's see where we are at season's end. So I cannot give you, I don't know who posed that question in the chat, but I cannot give them a firm steer at this point that we're definitely going to see a deal today. I think that is still very much TBD.
So, Mark, I have two clarification questions that I have to ask, but I'm glad that you mentioned the cap space situation, because even though the salary cap is rising year over year with all of this influx of new TV money, there's an awful lot of money committed already to superstar players around the league. And so there's just not a lot of cash to go around for guys that aren't those like max caliber 30, 40, $50 million players. With Grimes in particular, so he's on his rookie contract. So in case fans aren't familiar with this, the Mavs have signed extensions with guys like Dorian Finney-Smith, for example, right around the trade deadline in years past. But with Grimes on a rookie deal, that is not an option, correct? Like it's either now or never, or I guess now or after the season. And also, if the Mavs and Grimes do agree, and if any team and any rookie agrees to an extension before the deadline today, are they eligible to be traded throughout the season? Or is there a 6-month or some sort of delay to where they're with the team through the regular season no matter what?
There definitely is a delay, and I'm delinquent in not having that at my fingertips. I have to come back with you, and I promise I will come back with you. And I should know that answer off the top of my head, but there are so many deadlines moving around today, and I'm gonna have to. There 100% would be a delay. I do think that precludes him from being traded during this season, but I want to double check that.
I'm pretty sure you're right on that. It's kind of the same with the Lowry thing. There was like the one day that he could sign and be traded in that pass, and I remember you.
Same with Josh Green, I believe, when he signed his rookie extension.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, but I wanted, like I said, I don't like to guess, and okay. I don't like to cap. So as soon as I hang up, I will confer with a cap guy to make 1,000% sure. But as far as today's deadline, yes, the deadline is 5 p.m. local time. If there is no deal, Quentin Grimes will proceed to restricted free agency. But what you're seeing all over the league, extensions over the last 5+ years, we are seeing so many more extensions. We are seeing it's become rarity's too strong a word, but most players would prefer to do the extension than mess with free agency, because free agent dollars have become so scarce. The real movement, the real significant changes, when teams want to make big changes, more often than not over these past 5 years, we're seeing it through trades. Paul George to Philly was a rare example of an all-star moving into cap space. And only Philly really had the cap space to do that kind of move, unless Paul George was willing to go to a team like Detroit or, some other non-contender. So we are seeing more and more extensions. A year ago at this time, 14 first-round picks from the draft class of 2020 opted for extensions. So that does work in the Mavs' favor and generally has worked in teams' favor. But, again, in this specific case, I was told there is, or at least there was still a gap entering Monday between the sides. And could that be bridged? Could they come could the sides get to some sort of resolution here, and we still have 3 hours and change to go. And I apologize that I'm not trusting my cap knowledge right this second, but like I said, when I disconnect, I'm going to make that abundantly clear, and I will zip you guys.
No, it takes a law degree to keep up with all that, so don't worry about it at all. I guess
that's one of the beauties is like there are so many great cap experts, and my friend Keith Smith, who you guys probably see, he's constantly hosting his own front office show on YouTube and is tweeting all day long. Like, I mean, luckily there are a lot of people who just live with the cap and can give you these answers right off the bat. But yes, I think you are right. It should be a minimum 6 months, which would obviously go past the trade deadline in February. But I want to make utterly, positively certain before we put that out there.
We'll be keeping up with the Quentin Grimes news as the rest of the day goes on. Our National Mavericks NBA insider Marc Stein will have us all up to date on that. Speaking of updates, we are just a couple of days away from the Mavericks opening up the regular season against the San Antonio Spurs. All eyes on 77 in terms of Luka Doncic being ready for opening night. What is the latest with Luka Doncic as he gets ready to open up this season for the Mavericks this week?
I think that's exactly right, Kev. I mean, I don't think the Mavs are going to come out and say, yes, he's 100% playing. I don't think they're going to say that until they need to. Probably not something that they're going to trumpet on Monday when opening night is Thursday night. But based on everything I've been told, he looks really good. And when you rewind just a year ago, you remember both he and Kyrie Irving came back from the Abu Dhabi/Madrid trip. Both of them came back with injuries. Luka is getting much more practice time this year leading up to the opener against the Spurs than he did a year ago. He had much less practice time before playing opening night in San Antonio. And I'm guessing we do not need to have Bobby Carella's computer brain to remember that fourth quarter and the way Luka and Kyrie closed for the Mavs to win on opening night in San Antonio. So my sense, again, is that people are feeling pretty good just about how much court time Luka's been able to get. He was able to get his first full practice in before the last exhibition game last Thursday. And he's been on the practice floor, in the gym, participating in everything since that last exhibition game. And, what keeps being whispered to me is he will be ready. He will be ready. He will be ready.
Okay, and we'll look forward to that on opening night as the Mavericks take on the San Antonio Spurs, a much-anticipated season for this team with Luka Doncic spearheading it, looking forward to a potential MVP year. Mark, before we let you go, obviously, tomorrow is opening night in the association. What are your thoughts as we get ready for a brand-new NBA season and just the excitement around what this league has to offer with really the most talent that we've probably ever seen in this league and how deep it is going into this upcoming year?
I mean, it's just always a great time. I mean, games that count. It's a beautiful sentence, and we get them immediately. And I know we talked about it, I think, the last time all four of us were together. And it's kind of, at first it struck me as weird, a little bit weird for the Mavericks to be one of those teams along with San Antonio that doesn't get to play till Thursday night. But I think the idea has kind of grown on me that the four of us get to just, like, Tuesday night and Wednesday night, just really sit back and enjoy this opening array of games. And then the whole league's attention will be on San Antonio at Dallas Thursday night tip-off, a TNT game. That's just it's going to be a lot of fun and something else. I think we're all in agreement. I mean, Spurs, Mavs, it's always good. Regular season, playoffs, who's ever on the two rosters. Let's just hoop. Let's just hoop.
Mark, as always, appreciate the time. We know that you're going to have a busy next few hours here, and we look forward to seeing the updates throughout the rest of the day here on the Stein Line, man. Appreciate you joining us here.
All right, guys. Thanks for putting up with me, and I will dive back in if there is something to share.
Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Bye, Mark.
All right.
There he goes, our National Mavericks NBA insider, Marc Stein. Busy day for him as contract extensions can be done. We'll look to see if Quentin Grimes gets his done for the Dallas Mavericks by the time we get to the 5 p.m. Central Time trade or deadline. Not trade deadline. We're not here yet. Not trade deadline yet.
Hope not.
Not yet. Not yet. That's later on in February, but the contract extension deadline at 5 p.m. Central Time. Marc Stein at the Stein Line, our National Mavericks NBA insider. Coming up next here on DLLS Mavs, should the Mavericks take the regular season a little bit more seriously this year? And our NBA awards predictions, NBA's MVP, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year. Bobby and I will dive into it here in just a little bit. All that and more coming up on the DLLS Mavs podcast. But let me talk to you about Z-Biotics. I have to tell you about this game-changing product that I used before a night out with drinks. It's called Pre-Alcohol. I was out this past weekend in Louisiana with my wife at her homecoming. Had a few drinks, but I got myself ready before then with Z-Biotics. Z-Biotic Pre-Alcohol Biotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break down this product. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly and you feel your best tomorrow. Every time I have pre-alcohol before drinks, I'm able to feel better the next day as well. Don't have that necessarily groggy feeling or anything like that. I'm able to feel good the very next day. I kept hearing about pre-alcohol and wondered what it was actually like. Now that I've tried it, I believe the hype, Bobby. I believe the hype. And with their GMO technology, they will release different products that help address toxic byproducts of modern living in the gut. Go to zbiotics.com/DLLS Mavs to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use DLLS Mavs at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Shout out to Z-Biotics.
Shop for floors where you use your floors, all right? Don't be a fool and go to a box store where you got to remember, hey, how's my kitchen look? What's the lighting like in my bedroom? Oh, my bathroom, I can't remember, are my walls yellow or are they red? You just have no idea. Use the virtual floor designer from our friends at Empire today. You can take a picture of your floor in your home and boom, you can see what your floor will look like from exactly where you use them. You can say snuggled up in your PJs on the weekend. It's a little cold outside. Just throw on a hoodie, sit around the house, and shop for floors. And better yet, you can do it from people who you know you can count on and who service their own warranties and who leave out all the bad products and are only offering the good stuff because our friends at Empire today live, sleep, and breathe flooring. So schedule a free in-home estimate today. Not a friend home estimate, a free in-home estimate today. They are our friends.
You're right, Kat.
All listeners can receive $350 off when they use the promo code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Again, code DLLS. See empiretoday.com/DLLS for details.
Should the Mavericks take this upcoming season more seriously? And who are going to be the NBA award winners for this upcoming year? And yes, we're going to talk about the Mavericks' new television details as well a little bit later on in the show.
Very newsy show today, Kevin.
Very newsy show today, and it should be. We're just a couple of days. Actually, we're just a day away from the NBA regular season starting. We're just a couple of days away from the Mavericks taking the floor for the very first time. Everything's bigger in Texas. Victor Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs visiting your Dallas Mavericks on opening night, where the reigning Western Conference champions look to get back to the NBA Finals. Speaking of the getting back to the NBA Finals, should the Mavericks, Bobby, take this regular season a bit more seriously? And I thought about this listening to our friends Marc Stein, Brian Damaris, and Tim Cato on the Friday show, talking about a little bit, in terms of the regular season. And Brian brought up, the 07 year after the Mavericks lost to the finals in 06. They lost their first 4 games and went 0-4 to start off the year, but they went on to go 67-15 in that 2007 year. Dirk Nowitzki, of course, winning the NBA's MVP. The Mavericks were the runaway number 1 seed as well in that Western Conference that year. Should the Mavericks take this regular season as seriously maybe as that 07 team and try to go for a top 2 seed, maybe even the number 1 seed, given how difficult and treacherous the West is going to be this year? Last year, the Mavericks made it to the finals as a 5th seed, but you don't necessarily want to open up every single series in the Western Conference on the road like the Mavericks did last year.
Yeah, it's like you want to strike a balance, right? Because we heard the Warriors actually, I don't know if the players themselves said this or if maybe it was just kind of reported through the media, but in 2016, the Warriors go 73-9.
That's right.
They get the record for most wins in the regular season, and they lose in the finals. And it was kind of this thought of like, did they try too hard in the regular season? The Mavs in 2007, they won 67 games. It was the best season in franchise history, one of the best records of all time. they got bounced in the first round of the playoffs. And so it's kind of one of those things where you can almost like try too hard or lock in too much or dial in too much and just like exert so much energy to become the number 1 seed or achieve history or whatever, and you run out of gas. Now, for every point like that, you can say, well, the Celtics won 64 games last year and waltzed all the way to the NBA championship. That no series in the playoffs lasted longer than 5 games, I think, for them. So there was a line. I don't think that this Mavs team is historically good like the Warriors of 2016 or like the Celtics even of last year. I think this Mavs team has the ability to be the number 1 seed in the West. I don't think being number 1 should be their priority, but I do think that being top 3 or top 4 should be their priority. Getting to play game 1 in round 1 at home is, I think, the baseline of a successful season.
I agree with that.
I think if you can play game 1 at home in the second round too, that'd be pretty sick.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, as a coach or as a whatever, I'm not playing Luka 40 minutes a game in December just to eke out this win over the Rockets. You know, you still have to keep your eye on the ball long term, but they do need to. I'm trying to find a way to say this without sounding like a weirdo, but like they cannot be flirting with the 5 seed or the 6 seed or the 7 seed the last week of the season. Like, they're too good to be in the play-in. That's basically, I'm cutting through it. They are too good to be a play-in team.
Yeah, that's the baseline, is that you, number 1, finishing top 6 in the West. That is the ultimate baseline, obviously, for any team in today's NBA landscape. But for me, for the Mavericks, top 4 should be the goal. If you happen to get to a 2 or even a 1 seed, where, of course, OKC is a prohibitive favorite to win the West this year, the idea would be, look, I want as many potential Game 7s in my own building as I could possibly get. And the best way that you can do that is securing the best seed that you can, whether it be the number 2 seed or number 1 seed, to give as many chances to have the kind of advantage at home that you would need to. And yes, I know how good the Mavericks were on the road, particularly in the playoffs last year. But when you've got a team as good as you have it, yeah, a little bit more emphasis on the regular season, I think, should be warranted, because you have to maximize this roster. One of the things that we'll get into is at some point, throughout the course of the season, the Mavericks are the 5th oldest team in the NBA going into this upcoming year. So
I don't like that.
No, I don't either. So the other thing being, if you can have as much rest as you can to be able to be at home, to give these players the kind of comfortability that they're used to, the more advantages you're creating for yourself. And for a team that's as good as the Mavericks, yeah, the goal should be at minimum, obviously top 6, potentially top 4, but I would love to see this team be a top 2 seed like Oklahoma City, Dallas, or in whatever order you want to have that fall in. The Mavericks, I think, are good enough to earn a top 2 seed this year.
Yeah, so here's a couple stats, and here's what they mean. Last season, the Mavs were 25-5 against teams that were below 500, and they won, I forget what the number was, I think 15 or 16 in a row of such games until the very end of the year whenever they sat everybody against the Pistons. So they took care of business from January 9th, when they got smoked at home by the Grizzlies, until it was April 12th or 13th or something. They went undefeated against losing teams. Do I think they're going to go 40-0 or whatever? No, they're not going to win every single one of those games. But, for example, the Thunder went 24-5. The Nuggets went 28-2. The Wolves went 24-6. So, like, you have to, and those are your top 3 seeds in the West last year. So you have to win at that clip or better. Where the Mavs really tripped up was against good teams. They were 25-27 last season against teams that finished the season 500 or better. Now, they collected a lot of marquee wins down the stretch, but in the first half of the season, they really struggled. The Mavs were 23-9 in clutch games last year, which means they lost 23 games last season. 23 games last season whenever the score was not within 5 points inside the final 5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
That's a lot.
So they got basically, I mean, and that's not quite a blowout, but they pretty much got blown out 15 or 20 times last year by good teams. That cannot happen. Like, that is not what good teams do. You're going to have an off night. You're going to get run out of the gym a few times. It's going to happen to even the best teams in the league 5 times a year, 10 times a year.
Yeah.
It happened to the Mavs 20 times last season. You have 2 of the, if not the 2, best closers in the NBA in Luka and Kyrie, 2 of the best closers of all time.
And according to Chandler Parsons, the best backcourt duo in NBA history, apparently.
Yeah, you have to give those guys a chance to win you games.
Yes.
And they can't be really good in the fourth quarter if you're down 15 going into the fourth quarter. Like, you have to be competitive throughout games. So I guess, like, whenever I say, do they need to take the regular season seriously, I don't mean that. I'm not trying to imply that they're like, who cares if we win or lose? But it's like, you have to give yourself a chance to win. You can't just, kind of like the the stereotype about the Mavs, this common like point of complaint, point of stress among fans is sometimes it just looks like they just don't have it.
Yeah.
And you can tell 3-4 minutes into the game, this game is gonna suck.
Yeah.
And you're almost always right. Like that.
You could tell very
happen.
early on in the game what kind of night typically is going to be most nights in this league.
Yeah, that can't happen.
Yeah.
They need to almost all of their games need to be either clutch games or blowout wins. Like you cannot be getting smoked in 1 out of every 4 games you play. That just can't happen.
Yeah.
And now a lot of that was because they had a worse roster before the deadline and stuff, but like maintain that level of intensity, maintain that approach, maintain that professionalism heading into the season, and it will not be an issue. And you will be a top 2 or 3 seed because this is a top 2 or 3 roster in the West.
Yeah, and what's interesting is I don't think the Mavericks will have that luxury of taking nights off when it comes to the season because they're the reigning Western Conference champions and they're going to have a target on their back every single night. They're going to get every team's best punch night in and night out. So the mental and the physical toll that this team will have to navigate throughout the year, along with the emotional toll that they'll have to deal with as well, is you're not only trying to get back to the NBA Finals and win it, but you're also trying to fend off the OKCs, the Minnesotas, the Denvers, some of these up-and-coming teams that you might think will have a chance to knock off a potential team like the Dallas Mavericks. They're going to have to navigate a lot of different things this year, and you're not going to get many nights off. I mean, you look at their schedule, 7 of their first 9 games are at home, so you get the idea that they could be able to maybe stack up some wins at the AAC, but at the same time, teams are gunning for the Mavericks every night, and it's going to be up to them from a physical and a mental standpoint to lock in and be sharp because they know what the task is going to be in front of them with these teams coming in looking to knock them off.
Yeah, I mean, game 1, Wemby.
Yeah.
All right. Game 2 at
That's
Phoenix.
a hell of a start.
Yeah, game 2 at Phoenix. Game 3 against Utah, you should win that game. But game 4 at Mini, and then it's Rockets, and then it's Magic, and then it's Pacers. So, like, that's your first 6 games of the season. One of those teams is not going to be in the playoff picture this year.
Yeah.
Like, all 5 of the other teams could realistically finish top 6 or top 7 in their conference, or top 8 or whatever. Now, there's not room for all of them, and that's the thing, right? Like, one of the teams that I'm kind of lower on than most is the Bucks. And the other day, Kevin and I were talking about how I don't see how Milwaukee's going to win more than like 45 games. And then Kevin was like, yeah, but there's a lot of bad teams in the East. I was like, dang, you're right. They get to play the Pistons and the Wizards and the Hornets and the Raptors and the Nets and the Hawks and the Bulls. That's 7 awful teams.
Yes.
That's like almost a third of their games this season are against teams that they should beat by 25. The Mavs get to play the Blazers and the Jazz, and that's it.
Yeah, the West is ultra competitive this year. Not going to be many nights off, and like you mentioned, only a couple of bad teams that are really going to be trying to do too much winning. Yeah, you're going to have to bring your A game every single night.
And like Utah plays at altitude.
Exactly.
So in Portland is the furthest flight in the NBA. So like you're going to be tired. You're not going to want to be there. It's going to be hard to breathe, but like you have to win those games.
Yeah.
You just have to win those games. The Mavs got annihilated on New Year's Day last year in Utah. Remember that? Or was it New Year's Eve or whatever?
Yeah.
They lost by like 40. Like Jordan Clarkson spent the entire fourth quarter trying to get a triple-double. Like that's
right.
humiliating.
And he
like,
got it too. I do remember he got that too.
He did. And it only took him 47 missed shots on purpose to get the last rebound. And it's like, oh my God, you have one of the worst teams in the NBA doing bits against you.
Yeah.
Like you're too good for this. Like you're not that team. Don't be that team.
Kind of like the Cowboys getting their ass whipped by the Lions, and the Lions doing bits on them at AT&T Stadium.
Yeah, like show some pride.
No problem. Exactly. Where's the pride at? Real quick, I want to throw the comment up from Catalyst real quick, Tanner. He was talking about how want the Mavericks to finish as a top 3 seed, which means it could be a Luka MVP season as well. That'll lead us into our next topic because, look, if the Mavericks do find themselves as a top 3 seed, yeah, Luka will definitely be in the MVP conversation this upcoming year. A lot for the Mavericks to sort out during this upcoming regular season. We'll see how much more they'll be able to win this year to hopefully get into that top 4 slot as we get into the Western Conference playoffs. Coming up here next on the DLLS Mavs podcast, the NBA awards predictions. Who's going to win the NBA's MVP, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year? Bobby and I will get into it as we are just one day away from the NBA season starting here in 2024. All that and more coming up next on the DLLS Mavs podcast. But let me talk to you about Sleeper. I'm calling all ball knowers like myself, Bobby, Tanner's a ball knower as well. The Sleeper app that you know for hosting the best fantasy football leagues in the game now allows you to put your knowledge to the test in every game by picking whether your favorite or least favorite players will have more or less than their projected stats each week. Cowboys back on the field this upcoming weekend against the San Francisco 49ers. I'm taking Dak Prescott to have more than 200 passing yards. I'm taking CeeDee Lamb to have more than 60 receiving yards in a game that they've got to have against the San Francisco 49ers. With Sleeper, the more picks you combine, the more you can win, all the way up to 100 times your money. So if you think you have what it takes, like myself, Bobby, Tanner, Tim Cato, just let us know and download the Sleeper app and use code DLLS Mavs to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in 25 states. Check out Sleeper today.
Kevin, we're driven by the search for better here at DLLS, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need a hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch all that busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. There's more than 3.5 million businesses on there that use Indeed, so hey, what are you waiting for? Join the action. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsor job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/AllCity. Just go to Indeed.com/AllCity right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Again, Indeed.com/AllCity. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? Tim Cato? You need Indeed.
Indeed, you do. Good job on that. You did good.
Thank you.
You feel good about that?
I was filling in for Tim. Tim is not around. He'll be here soon.
Yeah. Maybe. Shout out to Tim Cato hosting with Marc Stein and Brian Damaris on our Friday show.
KG, I did get can I say this real quick?
Yeah, for sure.
So Stein, the Stein line dialed up us.
Oh, he dialed us
during the break.
Oh,
said according to Keith Smith, who's a big cap guy on the internet, players that sign rookie extension deals are available to be traded right away. But there's a very complex rules and poison pills and all sorts of provisions and asterisks and do's and don'ts and stuff. So generally speaking, if you sign a rookie deal, you're not getting traded anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. It, again, reminded me when Josh Green signed his extension with the Mavericks, and then they, eventually traded, not that same year, but, he ain't here no more.
Yeah. I didn't mean to steal Cato's thunder, though. You were saying that.
Oh, yeah. No, they did a great job on Friday with Brian Damaris, who was our special guest. He is going to be part of the Mavericks radio broadcast all season long. In the next segment, we'll get into all the details when it comes to Mavs TV officially being announced today, what it is, how you can get it, how many games will be where. We'll get into all that in our last segment today, because I know a lot of folks are anxious about the details when it comes to Mavericks television. Yeah. We'll get into all that here in just a little bit. But with the NBA season literally just a day away, the Boston Celtics, of course, are going to be trying to defend their NBA championship. Mavericks trying to get back to the finals to win their own NBA championship. Let's get into some NBA awards predictions as we try to figure out who's going to win the NBA's MVP, Coach of the Year, Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year. We want you to get interactive with us in the chat as well. Let us know who your award winners are going to be for the 2024-25 NBA season. Is Luka Doncic your favorite to win the NBA's MVP? We'll work backwards, though, and we'll start with our NBA Coach of the Year predictions that go to Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and then we'll end with the NBA's MVP choice. So, Bobby, let's get into it. And again, let us know in the chat as well some of your award winner predictions this upcoming year. Coach of the Year for the NBA 2024-25 NBA season will be for who for you?
All right, my answer to this, should I give you my runners-up first, or should I give you my pick?
You got runners-up. Okay.
I got two runners-up.
Okay.
All right, I got two
Jason
dark
Kidd
horses.
better be one of them.
No.
Or
actually,
the winner.
J-Kidd is not on my medal stand.
Oh, okay.
I think that either the Orlando Magic or Indiana Pacers are going to finish way higher than we think they might. I think one of them is getting a game one at home.
I see the Mavericks connections you're making here. I like what you're doing.
Yeah, and so I think whichever one of them gets to 50 wins, could be Jamal Mosley or Rick Carlisle in line for that award this year. I think those teams are going to take a step forward. A lot of young players. They both have very distinct and unique identities, and I think they're really, really good. So if one of those two teams truly pops in the East and is able to challenge like the Knicks or the Bucks or the Sixers for one of those top 4 spots, then I think they might get some votes. But my winner, Chris Finch, Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, for the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Yeah, I think Minnesota's going to win a lot of games. I think they, even despite the trade and maybe Randall not being as good as Cat, but you get DiVincenzo in there and you get Dillingham, like you're going to see some development. You're going to see Ant take a step. You're going to see the Wolves still win a ton of games, still be really, really good, top 5, top 10 in everything. And I think the Wolves will finish 2nd or 3rd in the West. So I'm going to go with Chris Finch.
Soulchild, he believes that Taylor Jenkins will win Coach of the Year for the Memphis
Tugging
Grizzlies.
at your heartstrings, Kevin.
Yeah, exactly. With Memphis being, I think, will be better this year. We'll see how they fare. It may have to do with your potential Rookie of the Year pick as well. My hot take earlier during the offseason was that Jason Kidd was going to win Coach of the Year. I guess I can't backtrack from that.
Oh, doubling down?
Yeah, I'm going to double down on it, kind of like Jerry Jones does when it comes to firing media members. I'm going to double down. I'm going to take Jason Kidd as NBA's Coach of the Year. I think the Mavericks will finish top 4 in the West. I think they'll win 55 games this year, which means Jason Kidd should be in that conversation for NBA's Coach of the Year. And I'm going to double down on it and take Jason Kidd. I'm not going full homer here. I know it sounds like I'm going full homer here, but I think they'll have the kind of regular season that will have them in that conversation. The other coach I was actually going to pick, other than Kidd, Michael Malone has a chance, I think, to win the NBA's Coach of the Year.
Okay.
I think a lot of folks are a little bit down on Denver this year because, they don't have, KCP anymore. They may feel like this is not the same kind of team. Questions about Jamal Murray, whether or not he's going to be the same type of player that he's accustomed to being. I think Michael Malone may have a chance to win Coach of the Year, but I'm going to go with Jason Kidd to win it.
There's like such a built-in bias with Coach of the Year where you have to really outperform expectations, either because your team is really old and dusty or because your team is super young.
Yeah.
And the Nuggets are like, I wouldn't say the Nuggets are dusty, but everyone's kind of over them, and they have a lot of serious question marks.
Yep.
And
narrative is built in for like this whole us against the world thing with Denver this year.
And for the Mavs, it's like, well, they already exceeded expectations, so you can't retroactively award that. And then like Luka is always like, Luka's like, whatever. He's not an MVP, but he's also easily one of the best players alive. So like,
right.
You don't get any credit for doing anything well, but you definitely don't get any pass whenever you don't achieve. So I feel like the Mavs are in such a weird spot. But if they finish top 1 or top 2, I think they could definitely could definitely get that.
Let us know in the chat as well. I saw some votes for Jason Kidd. Obviously, Taylor Jenkins was mentioned as well. Let us know there. Also, let's move to Rookie of the Year. Who will be the NBA's Rookie of the Year this upcoming year?
Zach Edey.
Oh, from Memphis.
I think he's either going to get a lot of minutes on a team that is good, so he's going to produce and be on a good team, which is a bonus points, or Memphis is going to be really hurt and really banged up, which means he's going to get even more minutes and get even more stats. So I think the other guys are a little young, maybe a little raw. Edey is 23 or 24 or whatever. Like I think he's kind of ready to produce right away. Okay. Or Donovan Clingan could be another one.
Oh, the rookie from Portland. I like him. He's really good at UConn. Terrific back-to-back national champions. I'm gonna go with Reed Sheppard.
Okay.
I know it's not good business to talk Houston Rocket basketball on this particular podcast, but Reed Sheppard, he came in NBA ready. He's gonna knock down a bunch of shots. I'm really interested to see how the Rockets perform this year. Last year, got better, had that 10-game winning streak late in the season. They weren't able to get themselves into the play-in, but Ime Udoka's a good coach there. They've got some young pieces, some young talented pieces there, some veteran guys on that team as well. But I think Reed Sheppard is going to come in and play lights out. He's going to have a chance to really knock down a lot of shots and really good, solid IQ player for a rookie coming in. I'm going to go with Reed Sheppard from Houston.
It's a good pick. I hope not, but
I hope not. I hope he doesn't do well against the Mavs. Obviously, again, not good business to talk Houston basketball. Coop's got an interesting one. Shout out to Dalton Connect from the Lakers. Did you see what he did against the Suns in their preseason game?
I did not.
He wound up scoring 20 straight points at one point.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And winning a game for the Lakers against the Phoenix Suns. Yeah, you got to check out those highlights. Dalton Connect went off
that's pretty
on the road against the Suns. But, yeah, he's a nice pick as well. NBA-ready player, of course, out of Tennessee. So some votes there for Dalton Connect as well. So let's move on then to Defensive Player of the Year. Let us know in the chat who you feel like is going to be the DPOY for 24-25. And I think for a lot of folks, it's going to be that dude from San Antonio. We're going to see on opening night.
I'm trying to find I think maybe if the Knicks win a lot of games, then it could be OG or Bridges. But, it's going to be Wemby, right? It's just going to be Wemby. I think Wemby's going to win that. maybe
Tanner
Lively.
says Derek
yeah.
Lively. I see it, Tanner, with the agenda.
Yeah, no,
I like what you're doing.
Like Wemby is probably gonna win the award like the next 10 years. I think we should just rename it.
Okay, so let's dive into that real quick. So how would you manage that if you're going to be watching this player, because he's going to become a guy like how Jordan was or other players were, where you could literally give them the MVP every
It's like Gobert, right?
Yeah, exactly. You could give the defensive player of the year to Gobert every single year. At some point, we had to choose somebody else just because like Wemby can't win it literally every single year, right?
Dude, I don't know, man. I mean,
Because I agree. I think he's the favorite to win defensive player of the year.
I've spent all year saying like, well, let's just like let the guy figure it out before we start saying he's one of the best players of all time or whatever. But like, he is pretty soon going to get to the point where every single time down the floor, you're worried about him, no matter where you are on the floor, and that is something that we've never seen before. Like, we've just never seen it. So, I think whenever you're that good and that, it's like Luka on offense. Like Luka should be the MVP every year because he is a one-man offense. You know, Wemby is a one-man defense. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we're gonna start finding reasons not to give it to Victor Wemby. I did like Solchild's sleeper pick though for defensive player of the year, and it's a player that I love, even though it's not good business to talk Miami Heat basketball either. Bam Adebayo. I love Bam Adebayo as a player.
No, I just don't think Miami's going to be very good.
I don't think so either.
Yeah,
I don't know if Jimmy Butler is there by the time we get to the trade deadline in Miami.
We'll see
for Miami. He's getting a little bit older, but Bam Adebayo is a player as well. Also, we didn't name Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, I think he's got a really good shot of winning Defensive Player of the Year, but Bobby's like, Anthony Davis, when he is at his best, he's one of the 10 best players in the league. Like, I firmly believe that when he's fully at his capabilities. Yeah,
he's like 32 or 33 now, though, right? Like,
Anthony AD's over 30 now. I have to check that. I thought he was maybe he is 30, 31 at this point.
He is 31.
He's 31. Okay,
he's going to turn 32 in March. Like,
okay, so at the end of the year. Okay,
I don't know, man.
Okay,
he's getting up there a little bit.
Yeah, Lakers got to figure it out what they're going to do moving forward there. So that gets us to then the NBA's MVP. So many good candidates to choose from. But, Bobby, it feels like it's Luka's MVP to lose this year, given the narrative, taking the team to the finals. It feels like it's Luka's MVP award to win this year.
Yeah, I think, like, I don't foresee any players having historically good seasons for historically good teams or any sort of thing where that would make you kind of like a runaway to win the award. I think Luka's the only guy in the NBA that could do that, unless Wemby is like 25, 15, and 6 on a team that wins 52. But like the Spurs aren't that good. As long as the Mavs win some arbitrary number of games to get a game one at home, I think it's Luka. I think Luka's so far ahead of everybody else. It's not even like he's got to play 65 and they've got to not lose 40. And I think he's going to win it.
So is a minimum win requirement 52, 53 wins?
Dude, I don't know. It's so arbitrary because Jokic won it one year when they were the 6th seed.
That's right.
The Mavs were the 5th seed last year, right? Or the Mavs were
the 5th seed last year.
Yeah, and everyone's like, yeah, the Mavs suck. Luka shouldn't get it. It's like, well, but what happened? Like, that was in 2022, by the way.
And Russ won an MVP when they finished, what was it, 6th or 7th?
Yeah, they were 6 or 7. Yeah.
And
it's like, yeah, that was in 2017.
Yeah.
Jokic won it as a 6th seed in 2022, and his numbers were not as good as they were years when he didn't win it.
That's right.
Luka had numbers last year that no one has ever done, ever. Like, no one has even come close to what Luka did last year.
We never saw a 34-9-9 season. We had never seen that before.
Yeah, and like if you go to like, okay, so Oscar Robertson once averaged a 30-point triple-double. They played like 125 possessions back then. So Luka's per 100. I'm not joking. Luka's per 100 are so much better than, and Oscar Robertson's a great player, obviously, but like so much better than anything that we've seen before ever. Like Wilt averaged 50 that year, again on 125, 130 possessions a game. Luka averaged basically almost the same as Wilt. I could look it up if you want.
No. I believe it because you're our analyst. All right.
I will right now.
Shout out to Ardell. He believes Nikola Jokic will win the NBA's MVP again. Andrew saying, look, there's no way that Jokic can win another MVP. That'd be 4 MVPs in 5 years. That's interesting he brings that up because the historical context and the pantheon that we would put Nikola Jokic in if he wins a 4th MVP in the last 5 years is we're getting to unprecedented territory at that point. I saw some votes come in for potentially Jalen Brunson. I think Ben Selheim dropped that in there with either Jalen Brunson or Anthony Edwards, who I think is kind of the dark horse MVP candidate. I think the favorites are SGA, obviously Nikola Jokic, Luka Doncic. But Anthony Edwards has a chance to be the NBA's MVP as well.
Luka last year averaged 43.3 points per 100 possessions. The year Wilt averaged 50 a game, which is unbelievable. I'm not doing anything to diminish the accomplishments of players that have come before, my lifetime. But the Warriors that year played 131 possessions per game. So they got 30 extra chances down the floor to score.
Yeah.
If you gave Luka 30 extra chances a game, he would average 70. He would average 60.
I mean, and he had that 73-point game that one time.
Yeah. So anyway, all this is to say Luka is historically good, and that wasn't good enough for him to win it last year as a 5 seed.
Yeah.
Jokic was historically good, and that was good enough to win as a 6 seed. But Luka was better than Jokic, and so it just doesn't. That's why I just don't really care that much.
The 6 degrees of trying to win the NBA's MVP.
There's always just some arbitrary reason for why he didn't do it.
Yeah.
The people who vote on the award have to come up with a fancy way of saying, I just don't feel like voting for him. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's really it.
That's how I think Embiid got his. Not going to lie to you. I think
probably.
Got his MVP
but,
award.
I mean, also, and
we can't keep voting for Jokic year after year after year.
And now that Embiid has come out and said this thing, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're good,
But now Embiid has come out and said it. I don't feel bad talking about it anymore. Embiid said, I'm not going to complain about individual awards anymore, which is really good because he spent 3 years crying publicly about how he didn't win an MVP. It's like, dude, shut up.
Yeah.
Just shut up about it. And now he is shutting up about it. So it's great.
Because he got his MVP.
Yeah, and Bam Adebayo tweets cryptic stuff all the time about DPOY. It's like, dude, who cares? You make $50 million a year. No one feels bad for you.
See, I will say this before we go to break. I think some of the reason that is too is think about all the money that's now tied to these awards though, and all NBA performances. Like if you're an all NBA performer, or if you're MVP or DPOY winner, the money and the increase that you get.
Yeah, no, for sure. Which is why it should not be connected at all.
Agreed. Let us know.
Marc Stein does not vote for awards. Marc Stein lives in NBA arenas.
Right.
And he doesn't vote for awards. Some dude I've never heard of and I will never meet that does not live here, that's never been to a game, votes for awards. It's like, okay, so they don't matter. They just don't matter.
Yeah.
But vote Luka for MVP.
Vote Luka for MVP. That's right. If nothing else, vote Luka for MVP. Let us know in the chat as well who you're feeling like will win the NBA's awards this year. NBA season starts tomorrow as we open up the NBA season. Coming up next year on DLLS Mavs, the Mavs television details. All the details you need to know about Mavericks television, the streaming details. We'll have all that, and we'll chronicle your reaction to it as well here coming up next year on the DLLS Mavs Podcast.
But first, quickly, I want to shout out some of our newest diehards. So these are people that have signed up since, how about this? Since Brian Damaris appeared on a Tim Cato hosted show.
Oh, look at that.
So maybe we can give them credit for this.
Clip this for Damaris, Tanner. There you go.
Yeah, shout out to Jacob and Brian and Rob and Terry and David and Jean-Francois and Renee, who all became diehards over the weekend. Whenever you go to alldls.com/diehard, you can join an elite and mighty group of folks who have become diehards, which gets you access to our entire website, including all of the paywalled written content, which is most of the things on our site, all the exclusive content, analysis, breakdowns, columns, opinions, breaking news, and features written by top-class professional writers on every single beat, covering every single team, with more on the way very, very soon. You also get to join the Die Hard only Discord. You get a free shirt when you sign up, and some of you have gotten them, and some of you, Mom, have not gotten your shirt yet, but those shirts are on the way. We're solving cases one by one, baby. So when you get that shirt, post that shirt on social, and let's celebrate together, because whenever one of us wins, we all win. That's the point of being a diehard, right? You also get a discount on all future merch purchases. You get a discount on future events. You get priority access to future events, and much more. There's plenty of reasons to become a diehard, and those are just a few of them, Kevin. And
make sure you tag us on social media as well. Shout out to Jesse, who tagged us over the weekend. He got his physical diehard card and his DLLS diehard box as well. Make sure you show it off. Let us know. We'll shout you out, not just on the show, but also on social media as well. So shout out to Jesse, who got his stuff this weekend. Physical diehard card, alldlls.com/diehard. Become a diehard member today. Premium content, pregame shows, postgame shows, 20% off our events. A lot of amazing benefits when you become a diehard member here at DLLS Sports. Again, alldlls.com/diehard. Become a diehard member today and show off that membership and tag us in it, and we'll shout you out as well. As we finish up our show here today, details have emerged on Mavericks television, how you can watch the Mavericks this upcoming year, where you'll be able to see it, and how much it'll cost as well. Those details coming out today. The Mavericks officially announcing Mavericks television, and some news also on the radio side as well, as Brian Damaris, who was our guest on Friday, he will now take over for the retired Brad Davis, who will now move into retirement. That means Chuck Cooperstein and Brian Damaris will be your not only radio analyst, but also play-by-play voice for the Mavericks on the radio side on 97.1 and the Eagles. So if you are driving out there, listening to the games, that's who will be on the Mavericks radio broadcast this upcoming year. But also details when it comes to the television on this as well, as we now know where you can find these games and how you'll be able to watch it this upcoming year.
Yeah, so Mavs.com/broadcast has all the details, and there's a lot of them. There's a big, long Q&A and FAQ or whatever abbreviation you want to use to describe all of this information to make it a little more accessible and digestible for you. But essentially, the Mavs, in addition to streaming or airing all of their games, I should say, on Channel 29 locally, which are on some apps and not others. I don't know. TV is very confusing to me. They launched a Mavs TV stream. Okay, so Mavs TV is a locally televised games that you can stream on your device digitally, live or on demand for the 24-25 season. Fans in the this is directly from the website. Fans in the Mavericks' approved region throughout Texas and parts of Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico, and Oklahoma with a Mavs TV subscription will be able to stream all Mavs games that are not nationally televised via the NBA app, NBA.com, and all NBA-supported assets. A new Mavs TV app with game coverage, exclusive footage, and original on-demand content will launch later this season. So basically, this provides another option to view the games. There are a lot of people that live in Dallas that have cable providers or some other streaming service that do carry 29. There are a lot of people that don't. You can solve this problem by purchasing a digital antenna, but those only work in some parts of the state. For example, Andrew lives in a part of the state that actually does not pick up the signal with the digital antenna. So he ended up getting the Mavs TV subscription, which you can do. It's $125, I believe, for the entire season. There's also a monthly rate, I think at $15 or $16 a month, which if you think about it, the season's only 6 months long. So if you get the monthly rate, it's actually, I think, cheaper. It comes out in the wash, but you get to maintain the membership. If you buy the season long one, you get to maintain the membership all year, which means you can go back and watch games like in the off season. And also the Mavs are running a deal right now where if you sign up while supplies last, I don't know how long that means, but if you sign up while supplies last, you get a pair of tickets to an upcoming Mavs home game or a $75 gift card to their online fan shop. So pretty good deal to sign up if you are hoping to do that. I know, I hear you. I promise I hear you. A lot of people are frustrated that it doesn't work on YouTube TV or on, I think, Hulu's another one, and maybe Roku's another one or whatever. There's like 3 that it still doesn't work on. Look, I don't know how any of this works. I don't work for the team. I'm just some guy on the internet, but I'm here to tell you there are so many different ways to watch Mavs games that, like, you cannot make yourself the protagonist of reality. It's a bummer if it doesn't work for you, but there are 3 or 4 different very viable legal options, and there are a host of others that are available to you. I think that purchasing a digital antenna is actually a really good deal because you get a lot of channels that you would get if you're paying for YouTube TV. Like, it's just a pretty good deal. It's a one-time purchase. But again, you might live in an area where that doesn't work, or you might not live in Dallas or whatever. But there are a lot of ways to watch the games. It's a bummer that this is so expensive, whereas Victory Plus, for example, is free for now. But I think, man, I don't know. There's more ways to watch Mavs games now than there ever has been before, and I think that is objectively good. Obviously, there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be, well, what about me's? Like, I get that. I would have that issue if I didn't work here. You know, like, I'm whatever. Like, we all encounter our problems, but I think that it is objectively good that what's happening is happening.
Yeah, and the idea is to try to get the Mavs in front of as many eyeballs as possible and to try to find the most creative ways to do that. Obviously, you know, knowing how much live sports is valued throughout so many different kinds of networks and different, you know, streaming platforms as well. You know, I was talking with Tanner before the show. You know, it's the amount of segmentation and fragmentation, however you want to phrase it, and where you get your sports, how you get your sports. The Mavs are making, it looks like, an effort to ensure that as many folks can watch these games as possible and providing as many options as they can for Mavericks fans to be able to watch these games. In fact, you know, one of the cities that will be able to watch it now, if you're in Shreveport, Louisiana, for example, you'll be able to watch Mavericks games. So trying to open it up as much as you can, even with the restrictions that come with, you know, blackouts and those kinds of things. You know, it seems like the Mavericks are trying to make as much effort as they can to get these team in front of as many eyeballs as possible.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I said whenever one of the first shows we did. I said it is like objectively,
yes,
it is a morally correct thing to do for sports teams to make their games available to be seen. Now, $125 for the season is still pretty pricey to pay up front. Like, I get that. Now, you can go with the monthly thing to see if it works for you, and then you can
because we're talking about $90 for the 6-month season, $15 a month if we're talking about a 6-month.
Yeah. Now, again, $125, you get a gifty. You get a free ticket. So there's some bennies that come with it. I know that you don't like it when I say that. Of course, you want to
throw bennies in there.
There's a benny that you get. And I understand that $125, that's a lot of money to some people, especially people that, like, there are people that are struggling just to pay their dang rent, dude.
For
$125 a month or total is a lot. But it's 82 games, so it's like $150 a game or something, and you can go back and rewatch them whenever you want. Like, I think it's pretty good. Like, if you're super duper ultra basketball fan of the Mavs and you live in Dallas, it's a pretty good deal. Now, I will caution against, if you bought League Pass and live in Dallas, then you better have a VPN or you better have some other way to game it, because if you buy NBA League Pass, your games are blacked out. Mavs games are blacked out. Now, if you live in New York and want to watch the Mavs, you can buy a League Pass. You can watch the Mavs. It's all good.
Yep.
So League Pass is a really, really good deal unless you live in the city where your team plays, which makes it kind of a really, really bad deal.
Yeah, for sure. So if you got League Pass, like, I think the League Pass is $110 versus what you're going to be paying, obviously, for the Mavs. But at the same time, the 70 games are not going to be on national television on KFAA channel 29 as well. If you have DirecTV, if you have some of these other streaming services that allows you to watch these games, you'll be able to watch there as well. And again, as many people who can watch these games as possible. I want to throw Ardell's comment real quick because he had a really good one. He said, no matter how you consume the Mavericks, DLLS is your most comprehensive
coverage. You're damn right, Ardell.
That's a fact, Ardell.
That
Shout out
is so
to you.
True and so valid.
It's Super Chat Ardell coming in with the goods there.
We should Super Chat Ardell for just saying that. Ardell, what's your YouTube channel?
We can't afford him.
Oh, no. That's right.
As much as he's paid, we can't afford him at this point. But shout out to you, Ardell, because you are a guy, man.
But I mean, I want to say this too, and I know we're kind of up against it, but I'm down to keep jamming if you want, man. It's
jam
NBA
away,
launch
Bobby.
season.
Let's go. I want to know if the other people are thinking as well, based off of what they're feeling on some of this. Because I think I saw one comment saying, "Look, it's not that some folks are upset because they thought the expectation of it would be for free, based off of what
and that's the thing, like, because $125 is not free. Like, trust me,
very not free.
I would have a hard time stomaching paying $125. But, dude, I don't know. It's a $150 a game, and like, if you're gonna watch every game, $150 is like really reasonable, When
you start breaking down the math and how,
it's $125 up front. Now, I don't know if you can like say, hey, can I do $20 a month, or like, can I pay you $20 a month over time, or do I have to give you that money now? Like, that is kind of
like a payment plan of some sort.
It's tough. Like, the week of the regular season to have to make that call, but. It's a pretty reasonable price, I think. I would be surprised if all of the super free ways to watch games remain free forever. I hope that it becomes cheaper to watch games and not more expensive. But, Kevin, you said it. Everything is an app now.
Yeah.
Everything is a freaking app. You have to have 27 different apps on your phone and different subs just to watch the NFL.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta have Peacock, Netflix, Amazon Prime, in addition to all the regular networks, just to watch NFL games.
Yeah, like, that's unreasonable, dude.
Yeah.
And like, if you added up the cost of a Netflix sub and an Apple TV sub and an Amazon Prime sub and a Hulu sub, and then you're spending way more than $125 and getting way fewer games. So, it's kind of one of those things, I think, where like, if you're in it, if you're really like, you live and eat and sleep and breathe basketball, then $125 is like, it's nothing in the grand scheme of things, because that's 82 times 2.5 hours of entertainment over the course of a year. And the Mavs are going to be really good, but it's just a bummer. I mean, it's a bummer that it's not free. It's a bummer that there are people on YouTube TV and some other places that can't get the games. But like, again, dude, YouTube TV is really expensive. A digital antenna, you get a lot of that stuff for a one-time fee. There's a lot more ways to watch TV than just on the app and on the subscription that you have. So I would encourage everybody to be wise shoppers. But then again, I mean, there have been people that have dropped recommendations for other ways to watch games that I won't speak about, but that are certainly viable in your own right. So like, there's a lot of different ways to watch the games. But Ardell is super right. Super chat Ardell is super right.
Shout out to you.
Because we're going to be covering every dang game no matter what channel it's on.
Every single game here on DLLS Mavs. Before we get out of here, no news yet when it comes to Quentin Grimes. I know someone, I think it was Ardell, maybe asking about if there was any additional Quentin Grimes news. Make sure you're following our National Mavericks NBA insider Marc Stein at the Steinline for the latest when it comes to the contract extension deadline today. That's 5 p.m. Central Standard Time for those contract extensions. A piece of Mavericks news when it comes to former Dallas Maverick, AJ Lawson. He's expected to join the Brooklyn Nets G League affiliate, the Long Island Nets, according to Michael Scotto.
Wow, that's actually pretty surprising.
Of Hoops Hype. So AJ Lawson, former Dallas Maverick, he is headed to the Long Island Nets to join the Brooklyn Nets G League affiliate.
My
there.
snap reaction to that is it's going to be a long season in Brooklyn, so they're probably going to give a lot of guys a chance. So that's a really good opportunity for AJ to get another crack in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
That also explains. So we had said this would probably happen where the Mavs would cut guys and then they'd sign random people you haven't heard of and then cut them immediately.
That's exactly
they did
what
that over
happened.
the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
The guys that they did that with will play for the Legends. You can do that with 4 players. So I would suspect that Jamarian Sharp and Emmanuel Miller and then those 2 guys that the Mavs signed, those will be the 4 that go to the G League.
Yep.
Along with the 3 two-way players who are Jason Gortman, Brandon Williams, and Kessler Edwards. But it wouldn't surprise me if those guys spent a lot of time with the regular, like the big team, at least early in the season, because Legend season doesn't start till November anyway. So those guys will be with the Mavs for a while, especially as guys are in and out of lineup and dealing with injuries and stuff. I mean, I want to see Kessler Edwards on the floor like on opening night maybe.
And congrats to Jazz Gorman for earning a 2-way deal with the
Well
Dallas
deserved.
Mavericks as well. He had a hell of a preseason and earned his way on to this roster. That'll do it for us here on DLLS Mavs Programming Note. We are off tomorrow on Tuesday, but we'll be back on Wednesday at 1 p.m. with our Mavericks season preview show to get you ready for the Dallas Mavericks upcoming year with opening night on Thursday. So again, Programming Note, DLLS Mavs off tomorrow. We'll be back on Wednesday at 1 p.m. here on DLLS Sports. For our National Mavericks NBA insider, Marc Stein, our Mavericks insider and beat reporter, Tim Cato, Bobby Carella, Kevin Gray, we are DLLS Mavs. We'll talk to you on Wednesday at 1 p.m. right here on DLLS Mavs on DLLS Sports. We'll talk to you later. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.